Hi fume heads, I'm back and this time I'm going to give you a comparison video between two fragrances that get compared quite often. So I'm going to talk to you about, this one's called Feu D'Issey by Issey Miyake. It's discontinued, it's very rare and it's quite expensive to get hold of, but Ben from our fragrance group did a split. He managed to get a good deal on a bottle on eBay, so I got myself 5 mils just out of curiosity really. Generally the Issey fragrances don't do it for me. The whole aquatic vibe, not really my thing. Marine, not really. Don't mind like a little bit of salt or a little bit of beachy, sandy marininess to certain fragrances, but the Isseys tend to be just way too much, too sharp. Don't do it for me. So take a breath. And then the other fragrance was sent to me by Claire Chobbers, as we refer to her with affection. She sent us this Etra by Etro, hopefully I've got that right, Etra by Etro, to compare. So I yesterday compared both. I smothered one arm, that one I smothered with the Issey, and on this one yesterday I had the Etro and made some notes. I've just put a little bit extra on the backs of my hands. I'm actually wearing Iris Ganache today. It's my favourite fragrance, so but I just put a little bit on the backs of my hands just to remind me while I talk to you. So the opening notes of Feu D'Issey, I get this really sour, milky, creamy smell. Some people call it like almost like a baby vomit, and I do get that. But there's also this sweetness and this kind of pepperiness. What have I've written down? That the milk really does dominate to me. You got the violet leaf, and that is almost like a petrol kind of smell. You know, like in Fahrenheit, I think it's violet leaf in Fahrenheit that gives it that petroleum vibe, and it really does in Feu D'Issey. It almost, you know, like with a solvent, when you smell the solvent in the air, it's like that, but like quite nice violet leaf smell. What else did I say? The sour milk does eventually dry down to quite a pleasant, creamy like smell, and it only takes about 15 minutes for it to be a lot more acceptable to my nose. Those first 10-15 minutes the sour milk is really a bit off-putting, but it definitely does get better. Then on the other hand, the Etra, there is the creaminess, but not as like a sour milk vibe. It's a lot more acceptable and a lot more wearable. You've got a woodiness that's not so obvious to me in the Feu. I'm sure there is a little bit of woods in there, but I definitely get more woods in the Etra. Still get the violet leaf, but I don't think the violet leaf is quite as dominant and doesn't give it that kick that it does in the Feu. This smells lightly smoky, now ever so lightly smoky, not so you'd really notice, and it smells, I'd say, a little bit more gourmand than the Feu. It smells quite familiar to me, and I'm thinking that there's something almost like a little gingery in there. It made me think of my Jo Malone Dark Amber and Ginger Lily. And it feels like in the background there's this warm ginger, which is really nice. Anyway, a couple of hours in, on the Feu, the cream was very much still present, but it had subsided. The violet leaf was very strong still, and I've written here it's strangely ethereal, and I think I was actually referring to that solvent in the air kind of feel to it. So it's strong, but it feels like it's like dissipating in the air, but it's still very much there, if you know what I mean. Maybe not. I also noticed a little bit of caramel in the Feu, and at this 2 hour point I actually prefer the Feu, which is this side. 2 hours in on the Etra, I found that it was much lighter, although to be fair I had sprayed more of the Feu because that is a spray, whereas that's only a little dab sample. I tried to be as generous with that, but I don't think I was. So I did find it more lighter, but as I say, that could be that reason. The violet leaf is less pronounced further in than it is in the Feu, and the cream is barely there, just intermingling with everything else, just to give it this really creamy, warmy, fuzzy kind of feeling. I found that the Etra was more balanced. It was a really lovely fuzzy blur of violet, woods, cream, caramel, very comforting, whereas in the Feu I found that the cream kind of collided with the other aspects of it, and it didn't seem to be blended. It was almost like if you were to take a teaspoon of something acidic like lemon or orange and try and stir it into milk. I just feel like the two things don't, they're polar opposites, so they would not really work together. I mean, not saying that the Feu D'Issey doesn't work, but it's just a feeling that I get is that this heavy cream with everything else doesn't quite mix. But as I say, I still did prefer the Feu at that sort of 2 hour in point. Overall, what do I put here? Yeah, it was the acidity of what was in Feu mixing in with the cream did feel a little bit unbalanced. Definitely gave me a feeling of Fahrenheit with the petrol fumes, which I like. The Feu was stronger, and at points definitely preferred it over the Etra. I think the Etra is way more wearable. If you're not really into niche, I think you could still wear Etra, whereas I think you'd run screaming from Feu. On the Etro, I've written that it dried down sort of about 7 hours in. It was just this slightly floral, woody skin scent. It was creamy woods, but it had become a skin scent at that point at 7 hours in. Although it was quite pleasant, I did find it had gone a touch sour on my skin, not like the sour cream, but just generally the whole thing had gone a little bit sour. On the other hand, with the Feu, I've said that the 6 hours in, the violet leaf had faded to almost not being noticeable. I haven't really put much more than that, so I think it sort of remained this creamy, caramelly, and also slightly floral again, cosy mix, and it definitely was stronger, the Feu. So overall, I can totally see why they get compared. There's lots of similarities in the two. If I smelt one and then a week later smelt the other, I probably wouldn't really be able to distinguish what's what. I think just smelling the opening, I think I'll be able to tell what's what, basically, because of that sour cream that's really a little bit unpalatable. I think if you're going to give them a go, just be aware that you have to get past that first 15 minutes with the Feu to start to enjoy it. You've got to give it a little bit of time. I don't think either of them would be something that I would pick to wear properly, fully. If I was going to, I would probably pick the Etra because it's more of a people pleaser. But the Feu is, for me, going to be a reference fragrance that I keep and just smell every now and then, or maybe just wear a little bit on one part of my body and just enjoy it for myself. But I don't think it's the sort of fragrance anyone else is really going to enjoy smelling on me. Anyway, I hope that was interesting for you. It's been interesting for me, just sniffing them, making notes and sharing it with you guys. Cat's in the background licking herself, so I hope that was nice for you too. I'm off to pub. See you later.